Hello, Dallas-Fort Worth. It's Rick with Concert Connection, sponsored by PMC Entertainment. So I had a guest scheduled for this week, and we never really connected, and probably my fault because I was so crazy this weekend. And so I guess this week we're just going to do the show with me, myself, and I. And, you know, it's not that often. I always have guests. So it's not often that I just get to talk to the camera, which is not a bad thing. You know, it's one of these days where you kind of get to reflect on things and, you know, think back. And, you know, I mean, things have really, I feel very blessed. I've had a pretty good life. Things are going really good right now. You know, I've got an awesome house. I love where I live. I mean, I wonder what young me would think.
I've been thinking about life a lot recently, and life is pretty great. You know, I'm living on the beach, got a moped and everything. You know, I'm Rick, I'm 19 years old. Life can't get much better than this. I hope I'm not living in the suburbs like a stay-at-home dad.
And Mark.
Man, when I was a kid, 19, I was wearing like floral shirts, living on the beach. Now, I've got my own show. I get to wear whatever I want on my show. I mean, check it out. Great sense of fashion.
I'm 19 years old. It's great right now. I'm wearing shorts every day. I wear a tropical shirt. I have fashion on lock, but I just hope I don't dress like a yellow cartoon character when I'm older.
When I was 19, I was listening to like Billy Idol and UB40 and Bob Marley, and you know, I was into good music. But now, man, I've got great sense of music. I'm in a couple great bands. I got a lot of friends that are musicians. I've got it going on.
Yeah, music is great right now. You know, there's Pat Benatar, Bob Marley, Billy Idol. But I just hope in the future, you know, I listen to Billy Idol forever. Like, I hope he just stays around, he stays relevant, but I don't want to listen to some punk band that likes the color green. That would just be weird.
Yeah, you know I think I'm cool, but I also tell you guys I'm a dork. I embrace it. I actually think that's cool, being a dork, being a nerd. I love it. I bet you if I went back and met 19 me, I'd think I was cool.
Mark.
You know, I'm 19 years old. I think I know the world. I have it covered. I know better than my parents now. But, you know, it's not going to get much better than this. You know, I hope I just don't end up like a dork. Like, you know, I hate kids. I don't want kids when I grow up. Like, they're the actual worst.
And ultimately, the best part is I've got an awesome wife and a great kid.
What does ADHD stand for? We could change out the D for drummers.
Oh.
Active, I don't know. AD. Active drummer. AD.
Humiliation.
Humiliation.
All right, here we go. Are we ready? And Mark.
Oh, yeah, I should make that, not make that sound.
Was that a
Can you hear
piano
that?
or do you have
I heard
ghosts?
that, but that's fine. Let's start over.
That's your ghost piano.
Start over. Is that, are you going to be able to hear that? I don't think we will, right?
No, I'm okay with it, but if we have a ghost celebrity that's going to hang out with us,
No, it just
I
threw
can
me
talk.
off. Okay, here we go. And,
Am I close enough to the mic? Can you hear me, Mr. Rose?
man, this is going to be
You are
hard.
so cut off.
I haven't even started drinking yet.
For the Some people have more natural ability than others. Some people work harder than others, So
I love how your fingers have touched so many in the scene, and for you perverts, I don't mean it that way, but just with your ability to the number of students that you've worked with.
I'm very fortunate and so proud to, so many different genres and styles of music.
Oh, Lord, yes.
Which frankly and selfishly makes me better, right? Because I've had to, I was a long-time rock guy back in the 80s, right? And then I studied classical voice for 20 years with Arthur Peters, a renowned operatic tenor, and that changed everything.
Hello, rock stars. It's Rick with Concert Connection. Wow, that was weird. And welcome to another episode of Fun Time with me. And today I will guide you through the wild jungle of no, dude, I don't know where I'm going with this. Welcome to another show. I hope everyone's doing well. This week's guest is a good friend of mine, and I'm excited to chat with him. Please welcome Mr. David Houston. How are you, sir?
Hey, Rick, how are you?
I'm doing great. You know what? I'm doing great. As you could tell, I'm talking to myself on camera, and the scary part is they're great conversations.
Hey, when you can enjoy your own conversation that's going on the whole time in here that no one else gets to hear.
I just don't like it when I lose arguments with myself, and then later on I think I'm like, oh, I should have come back with that one. It's like
I take a pill for that. You know what I mean? Every day.
They make pills. I mean, the only pill I've heard of is the one, for like the blue pill. Like there's another pill.
We just break those in half next time,
So you're saying if I took the red pill, it would be a different adventure.
You're saying there's a chance.
You're saying there's a chance. Oh my God.
That's right.
My Lord, dude. You look wonderful. How are you?
If you can put a quart of blood in me in there, that would be great. Got to give me a little bit of color.
Man, we don't draw attention to that. People don't know. They think it's something wrong with their TV. Not
the only way to help me is to just leave me alone. That's the only way to do it.
See, T-Mobile's going to be mad because they were like, dude, we were about to sell like 5 dozen phones. And then they're like, oh, wait, no, it's really just him.
We take that back.
Oh my God. So recently, a few weeks back, we were out and about together. And by the way, thank you for that, inviting my wife and I to come hang out at your table. Actually, you had like a bunch of tables. And we were over at the Granada. We went and saw Reflective Soul and Ever the Essence, which I had not been able to see them yet because it seems like I'm always on the go. And again, thank you so much. What a fun night. Oh my Lord.
My pleasure. Yeah, I'm still on a high from for everyone at home. This is early the next day after that the performance at the Granada, and they just killed it.
Great show. So you guys could disregard what I said about a couple weeks ago. It was last night. I was just trying to be witty.
That was in a different performance that he's talking about. We go to a lot of shows. So, but yeah, first of all, Granada was. I mean, that's such a cool venue. You know what I mean? That's classic. Dallas greatness.
That was a movie theater, right? I'm not an idiot.
I think so. I'm not sure what. I assume it was probably the 1930s that was built on.
But it does have the orchestra pit.
Yeah.
I love the pit. And
totally cool.
It's funny because you were actually shooting some video, and I was sitting there talking to my wife, and I go, I want a theater.
Yeah.
Where can we go pick one up? Like, is there just an empty theater that I can have? I can buy.
Yeah, the ultimate man cave, right? Just have a small one in the backyard. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny because I was looking at it going, holy crap. And I said this to Tim Naylor from Unglued.
Yep.
And he and I had chatted. That was another comment that came up is I said, you understand how spoiled we are? He goes, yeah. I said, no. For a hobby, for just because we love music, we get to hang out in the coolest venues we're surrounded by so much money. He goes, huh? I said, dude, think about it. All the PAs, the lighting system, just we are surrounded. How much money and our gear, how much money it takes for us to have our hobby. And it kind of hit me because you don't think about that.
Sure.
It's an afterthought.
yeah, when it's there and it's all, it's been there, you just don't think about it. But I mean, yeah, it's a lot of, you think of all the time and effort that went to construct that the way that it's organized. It's pretty impressive. So
Gas Monkey, House of Blues, Lava Cantina, the Rebel, Grandscape, Texas Live. I mean, let's go down the list of all the venues. Fat Daddies. I mean, we
and
are
it's
in
not,
the best venues.
yeah, not just the capital, obviously, that went into that as well, but I mean, a lot of time and effort of a whole lot of people. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, but it always sounds fantastic and looks spectacular. The lights and sound at Granada are pretty impressive. So, for the folks at home, last night, Rick and a bunch of our friends and colleagues and so on were out at the Granada Theater.
Yep.
It was a spectacular performance with Reflected Soul.
Yep.
And with Ever the Essence, which that was their second performance, and oh my God,
Was that the second? I thought it was their third. It was only their second?
no, that was their second, and it was just like
Okay.
completely. So,
Okay, see,
pretty
I
impressive.
missed the first one because I had a gig actually that night,
Yeah.
and I was so disappointed. So now I'm smiling, going, okay, I got to see their second,
Yeah.
and they were phenomenal. They were phenomenal. And if you know, Amy Lee actually is a pianist as well as a vocalist, and Miss Christie did a phenomenal job. Blew me away. I didn't realize it. I know she's gonna probably call me and smack the crap out of me. I didn't realize she was a pianist as well. And so when she started playing and singing, I was just like, right on, Miss Christie.
Totally.
You guys did a great job.
I mean, she just killed it completely, and the band, that's pretty impressive stuff. So they one of the other folks in Reflective Soul was referring to it, saying, "Wow, these guys set the bar pretty high," which is true. So very proud of Christy. I admit she's one of my faves.
And you guys are. I mean, you guys are friends. She is a student. You're a coach, and I mean, you guys have known each other a while, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but I'm going to tell you, whenever a band comes on the scene, or even that's in the scene and decides they're going to change their game and up it, all of us win, because what it does is it sends a wave, a ripple effect to everybody else saying, up your game. And the more we all up our game, the better the quality that the consumer, i.e. the fans, are going to get on stage. And believe it or not, there's more. I think as musicians get a little bit more out of it, because we up our game. And
it's quite inspiring. You know what I mean? At that first Ever the Essence show, I was so excited for that for some time, because I knew when that was, all through the development of that, when Glenn and Christy were first talking privately to me about that and formulating everything. So I was so excited for so long. But then when you're at that performance, and I know those songs, and close with Christy, of course, but then hearing that, where I was then inspired, and I'm like, wow, this was just exciting. It took it to a whole new, and that was something that I had not anticipated in this business, frankly, in the Dallas voice coach business. I always had been a performer back in, when I was young.
Yeah.
And I didn't anticipate, I thought of when I started building the teaching practice, I just thought, I've studied voice for a long, long time. I can do this and build this thing up. But then as I started having those students, and of course, you get attached to them, you believe in them, you care about what they're doing. That was a satisfaction that I could not have anticipated. And that made it so much more so than myself. That's one thrill, or whatever you want to call it, one satisfaction from performing yourself. But this was so much greater, which I never even thought about until you experienced it. And then I was like, oh, it meant so much more. So anyway,
that is awesome, because you would hope that maybe that happens with each of your students, even if you're not there, but that they're having those moments, and that's the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, so that's a thrill to me. So I love going out and hearing my folks perform. So that's
awesome.
I do love that. So,
and they put in some months. I mean, they didn't just say, let's get together once or twice.
No. It's years of consistent work to be able to do that.
And now you've been friends and a coach with you've been friends for a long time with Christy and Glenn, but you've been coaching her now for a while, correct?
Yeah, probably maybe 4 years now, something like that. I'd have to look in the computer and see what our start date was. But yeah, it's been for some time now. Initially, obviously, with Even It Up, their
Yes.
heart, the ultimate heart tribute.
Yes.
So, which we all probably grew up on Ann Wilson and all that. So I always was an admirer of her voice. But Christy nails every bit of the heart vocal. So doing the Evanescence, Amy Lee. Some of the same notes that Ann Wilson would sing, of course, but the timbre, the color of the tone is different, and frankly, Christy's even closer to that sound. She makes that stuff sound incredible. So
let's full disclose. Before she came to you, she was already
totally
a phenomenal vocalist.
Yeah,
Not like she
I
came and
certainly
said,
do not mean
teach
to
me
take
how to
credit.
sing.
People like Donovan and Infinite Journey and Christy and all these folks were already way advanced singers.
Phenomenal vocalist already.
Yeah, already great. So I certainly don't mean to take credit for the.
No, and that's why I wanted to make sure because you and I both know, and I don't want somebody else. They are talented. You're just high end tweaking and polishing a little bit here and there.
Yeah, because your mind is so much stronger than your body could ever be.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding the mechanics of your voice, it will not only increase the speed and traction of the learning process, but you'll link into what I would call your idealized sound, your idealized tone. So uncovering that and being able to get other flavors out of your voice, that's much more advanced study to be able to do that. So somewhere where you're comparing, for example, with going between Amy Lee and Ann Wilson, they're both great, right? It's just different flavors of ice cream, or however you want to think of it, on those different notes. So when a singer is singing those parts, you want to be able to move inside that idealized tone and get different shades of it. I know that's quite confusing here in an audio interview, but so that's back to the point of this. So advanced folks like Christy and others that may have been singing for 25 years or whatever, when they come to study, it's initially building a language that we both understand, to where we're using the same terminology, and then as we uncover that idealized tone, they'll gain dramatic flexibility in it.
Nice.
So that's what we're after. So,
and it's also, I'm assuming here, it's also not just about tweaking the voice, but also how to protect it, because it is a very delicate instrument.
Yeah, and it's also, it's really maximizing that. You think of it, whether it was singing or, if you're a bodybuilder or you're a gymnast or whatever it was, when you go and you see, a great doing something at whatever it was that their specialty was, they're going to make those really difficult things look easy oftentimes, which it is not easy at all. So, I mean, you think of seeing someone like Christy perform, and she's doing, some very difficult things, and makes them look like, this was nothing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Trust me, we all watch her and we're like, and again, she does make it look very effortless, and the great ones always do.
Absolutely.
And I will tell you, I struggle with it. You and I have talked about it. I use my voice a lot, and I used to sing, and I don't, because I was never properly trained. And do I like to sing? Yes, but I don't think I can hit pitch anymore, and I'm more worried about, because I'm on the phone all day and I do this, that I want to protect my voice. But the question is it easier or more difficult to deal with the beginning entry level or the more advanced? Because the more advanced student is already going to have habits and traits that you maybe have to unlearn. I mean, is it about the same? Or?
So I mean, muscle memory can be a good thing and a bad thing, right? It's a good thing when you've built great habits and you're used to, hitting the golf club a certain way. That can be a great advantage, right? I think back to when I was, way younger and performing all the time, songs that I had sang many, many, many times when I started formally studying voice. I would have my, great tone at my lesson with my voice coach.
Yep.
And I would go to rehearsal that night, and I would go right back into the way that I always did things. And I was like, wait a minute. 3 hours ago, I was sounding spectacular. What is happening? Why am I not replicating that same tone? So I had to take those songs that I already had sang and break myself of doing things the way I used to do them. That's much more difficult, or can be frustrating to try and do that and relearn those things.
I think that's all of us, because we're drummers are the same thing. It's all muscle memory. And
yeah, so it's a different set of challenges for someone who's brand new. Where think of going to the gym for the very first time. If you were a bodybuilder, you're not a bodybuilder yet. You know what I mean? So you're just trying to, hey, I'm just trying to learn how to use the machines in there, right?
Yeah.
Versus someone who's an advanced singer, and they, have been doing something for a long, long time, and then it's like, okay, you know what? We're going to tweak all of that, and we're going to start doing it this way. Then that's a different challenge. So
you say use the machines, and I'm sorry, my ADD brain. I'm I'm envisioning me like tied up, hanging from the ceiling, because I got, in one of that
not on your first lesson.
Yeah, right? don't ever cut me loose, because the next thing you know, I'm gonna sound like Wolfman Jack, and I'll be like coming at you live from.
That's right. In Philadelphia.
Oh my Lord. But we do hear people, and you hear their voice, and you're like, oh my God, that's a voice made for radio. Does everybody have that talent, or is that something that has to be trained?
Yeah, that's you probably met Joe before. My student who's not a pro singer. He's a longtime tech guy, right? Okay. But he always had wanted to sing. So out of the blue, one day, this is probably 5 years ago, he calls me up. He starts to study with me. He looks at it as, hey, this is his therapy weekly, right? So he's got that natural, you hear him talk and you're like, oh, dude, do you do, radio voiceover stuff? Because it sounds like, the Sunday. You hear that low sound. He's got that. And that's just that was the length of his vocal cords. The width of the vocal cords gives that quality to it. And he was born with that, right? So he enjoys singing, and we built, a very nice voice and so on. But that depth of his speaking voice, that was there, He was born with a cello, where we may have a violin. You know what I mean?
I really wish you hadn't said Sunday, because now I'm thinking about Truckosaurus Rex. I'm just
Hey.
But those guys that do that kind of work, or who's the guy who does Are You Ready to Rumble? Again.
Yeah.
But it becomes very iconic to hear, and I'm sure that a guy like that still has to watch his chords. Yes.
The radio voiceover thing, that's probably, or they probably think of it more as, hey, they just always had this sound. So as long as they, if they were going to do their radio voiceover stuff, I assume they're not going to be having spoken a lot. They would have rested. Think of going out to a concert. You're talking with all of your friends, and you get home and you can feel, oh, I've been speaking really loudly at, talking in between songs or whatever in a loud place. So I assume that the radio voiceover guy would, rest his voice prior to, the big event.
I know we talk about the voice, but how much of it's also the ears? How much of it's the what you hear? And is that a big part of it?
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because your sound perception, and I'll often talk with students about this, where when someone first starts singing, you think back when you're in high school and you're in rock bands and whatever, my perception and reality were far apart, okay? Which you don't realize at first. So when you're recording, back in the day, you're recording on the jam box, you know what I mean, at your rehearsal, and you're thinking, boy, we had a great jam today. And I go home and I listen to it, and I'm like, this is nothing like what I thought I did. So, after listening to thousands of hours of yourself, you're getting perception and reality to start becoming the same. So I would refer to it as listening as the audience, to where when I'm singing something, I accurately know that this was the reality that was being heard out there. So as opposed to my speaking voice, which I have not analyzed for thousands of hours. So when I hear on my phone, you know what I mean? When I, hey, this is Dave, I'm not here right now, blah, blah, blah. When I hear that played back, I'm like, ugh. You know what I mean? Because I haven't, it
100%.
sounds different. Whereas my singing voice, when I hear that played back, I'm like, oh yeah, that's me singing, whatever it was.
And you're good with it.
Then I'm, perception and reality in terms of my singing voice has become almost, it's very, very close.
Yeah.
Whereas the speaking voice might be very different.
I went through that 3 years ago when we started this show because I just wasn't used to seeing myself, listening to myself. And now it's funny. I do actually, what I hear is the same as when I watch the video. And I think that's ironic because I never thought of it that way, that you're closing the gap between perception and reality. And
Absolutely.
That brilliant. So really vocalists should be filming themselves and recording all that so they can listen to them.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a singer and it's a laborious thing, right? There's if it was easy, everybody would do it. So I mean, studying your own voice to where you're trying to perfect something. So listening to it over and over and realizing that everything that you do isn't art. You know what I mean? This needed some work. We want to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Yeah.
So it's also important to listen to great voices. So then you're aware of what, you think of a child trying to play a violin or something. They don't even know what it's supposed to sound like yet. So, I mean, we need to listen to what greatness was. Yeah. So it's not that you could listen your way to becoming a great singer.
No, but you have a reference point.
I'm not saying you could do that, but you're definitely influenced by what you listen to. Yeah. So it's no surprise, I'm sure the same thing with drumming or anything else. When people hear my singing voice, they'll invariably mention 2 or 3 guys that were big influences on me in my most formative period when I was a lot younger. And so I'm like, shocker, you know what I mean? I listened to that, thousands of hours of that guy. You know what I mean? So did that make me sound like that person? No, but it influenced my perception of tone to where what I liked was then influenced by them, right?
Are you going to get back on stage and do any singing? Are there any plans at all?
It's I get asked this frequently. I don't know what the answer to that is. I occasionally do a record with either my pals that I've jammed with for 30 years, or sometimes another friend of mine I'm thinking of that is a long-time music guy who has produced a lot of records, and he's a dear friend of mine, and we were talking about writing and recording an album. And the exciting thing to me about that is that I don't know what it would sound like.
So you do have the desire still?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, my problem is oftentimes I suffer under my own neurosis of wanting to deliver my voice perfectly. And if it can't be that, it drives me crazy.
Okay.
So when I hear flaw in one of my students, for example, it doesn't bother me at all because I'm just like, oh, it's human error, But when I do that myself, it is debilitating to the sense that I can't stand it. So,
okay, I want to know from a vocal coach point of view, how bad was Kurt Cobain?
Pretty bad, right? So I mean,
but it was,
and I say this
brilliant.
respectfully because the guy did, he wrote a lot of great songs, right? And he did his thing. Was he worried about what his voice sounded like? No. But I mean, there's 2 different things here, right? Because something like pitch is objective. It's on or it's off. It's right and wrong. Whereas tone, completely subjective. One person likes this, somebody else likes that. So, there's certainly pitch issues with Cobain that you hear on record that he obviously thought it was cool and liked it and whatever, and that's why they kept it. And hey, what makes someone like something? The public loved it, right? So hey, but he certainly wrote some killer songs, in my opinion. He wrote some great.
He did, and he's not. I don't think anybody. He's iconic. I love it, but definitely not considered one of the great vocalists by any means. My question is, as I'm sitting here listening to you, is how much damage was he doing to his voice? And at some point, had he lived, is it reversible, or does the damage become so permanent?
Here's the interesting thing. You can get used to lots of different things, right? The
Okay.
human body will adapt to lots of things.
Okay.
I often, just having the same conversation with lots of different students where I would say, hey, let's build some good muscle memory. Because if we build bad muscle memory, can your body get used to it? I mean, my body could get used to driving nails into my arm. You know what I mean? I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but I mean, you could get used to it. I could get used to living in a concentration camp. I don't want to.
Let's not get carried away.
You know what I mean? But I could get used to it, right? So, so if Cobain had lived, would he be able to still do this? Maybe, if he got his body used to doing that all the time. So
it just sounds so raspy and just nasty. I mean, it was
right,
brilliant.
and the nastier that got, he might have thought it was great. Boy, my voice is I'm really pulling off this nasty, horrible sound. You know what I mean? Who knows? So,
I didn't mean to go down that tangent, but he comes to mind because it became huge for, again, not being perfect and being imperfect. And
sure.
as we're talking about, again, muscle memory and, training the voice, that had, chronic smoker. It just had that, like Janis Joplin had that very raspy. And if I remember correctly from history, she was a big smoker, drinker, and that has a huge effect on the vocal cords.
Yeah, but again, I know lots of great singers that are big smokers, and whatever you're inhaling is going past your vocal cords. They can get used to it. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. But
are they used to it because it's coating it with like tar, so it actually makes it? Is that part of it, or?
When people are always worried about what they're drinking and so on with their voice, and unless you're choking, nothing that you're drinking or eating is touching your vocal cords, right? That's going down your esophagus. It's not going into your larynx. Okay. So breathing, whatever you breathe passes your vocal cords, right? It goes down into your lungs. So would smoke passing your vocal cords do anything to them? I don't know. You tell me. I know that if you were taking antihistamines and so on, you're going to dry out the cords by definition, right?
And that's bad.
That's what's happening. Well, yeah. Now, could you get used to that too? Probably. But all the ENT guys would tell you not to take antihistamines. So.
And have you, and I'm just kind of curious as I'm sitting here thinking, have you heard any correlation, again, with us living through COVID and the detriment to the voice at all?
No, I haven't. If you were used to doing something and you continued exercising your voice, there's no reason to not be able to rely upon it.
And the reason I ask is because I've heard about people, losing lung capacity, the ability to breathe, obviously.
Oh, so if they just didn't sing for a year,
yeah,
that would absolutely affect you.
Would affect it. Okay, so it's no different than anything else. You don't work the machine. Yeah, you're starting over. You're gonna get arrested.
Yeah, singing, is not like riding a bike. It's just not. So if you don't do it, you're gonna have to rebuild those muscles. Okay. I remember my voice coach telling me about Linda Ronstadt in the '70s. Big, huge star and so on, known for the power of her voice and so on.
Yeah.
And she had taken, whatever, a year or so off and didn't sing. So then she calls her band up to prep for a tour or whatever. She was going to put out a new album or whatever it was. And she goes to the first rehearsal and can't sing any of her own songs. Oh. And then she's like, we're going to have to postpone that tour for 9 months. I'm going to go work out with my voice coach. Yep. And get it back in shape. So like anything, you're a creature of habit, and you got to get used to doing. And the more that you require of your voice, the more you can get from it. You're asking more from it. But if you get used to performing a 3-hour show and you're used to doing it all the time, then it doesn't seem like so much. Okay.
So for any of you out there that are vocalists, and again, you want to take it to the next level, they can definitely reach out to you.
Yeah, just go to DallasVoiceCoach.com and you can text me from there, and we'll line up a time to chat and so on. So.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend it. No matter what instrument you play, be it drums, guitar, bass, get some additional lessons, but definitely vocalist.
And go out and listen to. Think of the folks that we're talking about. Yep. I think of. I'm sure John Kenny.
Oh,
who
yeah.
I've talked about before on your show.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Epic Unplugged.
Yep.
Even if you're not a singer, do yourself a favor and go see his show.
Yeah.
You will not see anything else like that. That's
Wow.
all of the most iconic rock songs, right? But done with a string quartet and done in the original keys. The way you're used to hearing it on the radio is the way he will sing it.
Wow.
And that's a perfect example of someone who was not a long-time singer. He had been in rock bands and all, and for many decades and all that,
Yeah.
and maybe sang backup and whatever else. But he was not a lead singer. And we started from essentially nothing, and he's very advanced. And
Nice.
you'll hear that in his voice. That's a perfect example of
Okay.
all things are, so for everyone at home, all things are possible.
Yep.
So when you require, and that's not to say that there was not hard work involved, because he
absolutely.
is diligent. I show John something, he's on it, and just, methodical. So, the harder you work, there's always some balance between natural ability and hard work. Where was that balance? Some people have more natural ability than others. Some people work harder than others, So
I love how your fingers have touched so many in the scene, and for you perverts, I don't mean it that way, but just with your ability to the number of students that you've worked with.
I'm very fortunate and so proud to, so many different genres and styles of music.
My Lord, yes.
Which frankly and selfishly makes me better, right? Because I've had to, I was a long time rock guy back in the 80s, right? And then I studied classical voice for 20 years with Arthur Peters, a renowned operatic tenor. And that changed everything. And he exposed me to the whole opera world and all of that whole thing. But I was always a rock guy. I grew up on, Pink Floyd and Zeppelin and all that. So going out and being exposed to other types of music, other genres, things that you may not even be into, opens your mind to other things, other types of tones. And of course, you love what you love. But, that's to me personally, that's part of the joy, was being able to have all these different students in lots of different areas, lots of different ages, all over the map. And it made me a better singer, to be exposed, to be able to have to teach that. Oh, we're doing Sinatra today. Oh, okay. I need to be able to do that. Oh, we're doing Foo Fighters today. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? And be able to switch it up.
Yeah.
And go, okay, what are the mechanics that make that vocal possible?
And it's very representative in when I follow you, the way you go out in the scene and you do support the local Dallas-Fort Worth music scene, which is, again, thank you a million times, on so many levels for how you support the scene. But it's very representative because I see you at a lot of different shows and you're promoting it. And I know usually I can look at it, I go, oh, I know that's his student, or, and again,
Yeah. Yep.
And it's good because it's nice seeing how you've influenced a vocal coach, how you have influenced our music scene. And again, I love the way you always go out and promote.
Well, it's really, I guess technically you could look at that as work, but it's really not work. All of these people I'm friends with all of my students.
Yep.
So it's not really like work at all. And it's a total joy. And also, I do go see lots of people that are not my students too.
Yes.
That just, we're out, you and I, we're all, whatever, all of our pals are out there and we go to catch a great show. And there's so many great folks. Like, for example, with Maddie, we all went and saw Maddie the other day do her thing. Awesome. And she's a dear friend of mine, but she's not a student of mine, but love going and catching her per gig. So,
oh my God. And that's, you want to talk about some natural talent. This Maddie is a rock star. I've told this story many times. She's the whole reason that I'm in the music scene here in Dallas-Fort Worth, is because I caught a Cherry Bomb show and decided I was coming. I was teetering, like thinking about, should I get back into music?
I didn't know that. Okay, that's cool.
I was over at Crash Toys. I caught their show and we've joked about it with the band. The day it was hot, it was summer, and they were following the shadow back away from the sun because it was blistering hot.
Oh, sure.
And I met the band that day, and that was actually that day sitting on the picnic bench watching Cherry Bomb was the day I decided I was going to get back into the music scene. And here we are 5.5 years later, and I'm I'm a part of the family now, which I'm very
Wow.
blessed. And
I
so
did
yes,
not realize that. That
Miss
is so
Maddie was
cool.
my inspiration to get back into music after being retired for 12 years when I
Yes.
left Seattle. So I'm like, when there's a fondness, a dearness to my heart when I talk about Miss Maddie, because you guys you need to send the hate mail to her, because I wouldn't be here terrorizing you if it wasn't for Miss Maddie.
That's right. You can just direct everything right over there to
I
Matt.
can't believe I haven't thought of that sooner. Please send all those bills for your therapy and all that crap. Send it over to Miss Maddie. She'll love it. She'll love it. She'll respond right away.
It's all a write-off for her, right?
I
She
love
gets to
you,
write
Miss
that whole thing
Maddie.
So, yeah.
I'm getting a text message, right? It's like, you're an ass.
Oh yeah, as soon as this goes onto Facebook, we're all both going to be getting texts on the phone.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love you, Maddie. Thank you.
That's right.
Oh my
Yeah, but
Lord.
she totally killed it though.
Yeah.
It was great. So
David, thank you again for coming on my show. Will you do it again in the future sometime?
of course,
Would you maybe come on with
always-
one of your guests or with one of
Absolutely.
your students?
Totally, I would love to. Yeah, we
I'm
got to
just-
do it.
One other thing before I let you go.
Yeah.
I'm staring at the artwork behind you.
Yes.
What is it?
Yeah, this is in my living room, so there's a long wall here.
Okay.
That this piece was commissioned from the friend that I was telling you about, that we were talking about maybe writing and recording an album, longtime
Okay.
music guy. And
Okay.
he had this, you can see, it goes down, it's
Oh,
long.
wow.
It's really cool.
Wow.
So you can see all the music instruments there.
Yeah.
And so he had that commissioned from this artist to be made, and he was in the middle of selling a big house and so on and building a new place, and he didn't have anywhere for it. And he's like, hey, you have that long wall in your living room. And he's like, you want to have this thing? And I was like,
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it's a beautiful beautiful piece.
You would like to park it on my wall permanently. Sure.
That's right. No, and he's a very generous friend, and he's like, hey, it's yours. So that was nice.
David, the sacrifices you make for art.
Yeah, it's I'm just over here collecting artwork. Yep. I do what I
can. I love to see that you're so selfless. I mean, I'm sure you've got some more walls that are in need of sponsoring other artwork.
Yep. Any baby grand pianos or anything else you want to bring over here, you can just drop them off.
And I you know what? I'm running a drum rescue. If you need to camp some drums over at my house.
That's right. If you're running a museum for sonar kits, right? You want to collect some cool sonar kits.
Ludwig. Just saying. Ludwig.
Have you ever that sonar kick drum though? There's something about that, man. There's
don't get me started. You know,
no?
I've got a 65 and a 78 Ludwig. Those are pearls right
Yep.
there. I've got an Orange County kit at the Space, and then I've got a custom Dallas drum kit that John Zug just made for me this past year that I've been playing. And
I went and saw a Nico McBrain drum clinic.
Okay.
Back in '86, I think it was.
Okay.
Mockingbird and 35. Back there used to be a Brook Mays down there.
Okay.
And I show up and I'm in the front row to watch him do a drum clinic. Amazing, that guy from Maiden, of course.
Yeah.
And he does single bass drum where you can get that
triplets
with
on the kick. Yeah.
Oh my God. And just, you talk about someone making things look easy. That guy was brilliant. So spectacular drummer.
Those are the guys that make me go, maybe I should just quit playing.
Right. No, I know.
But then you're like,
this is the thing. I saw Pavarotti in '95 at Reunion Arena.
Wow.
And, the guy comes out and starts with, for the opera people out there, with K. Jelly Dominina from La Boheme, from the first act of La Boheme, with the high C and all of that. And he just
kills it.
Kings it, where I'm like, God almighty, you know what I mean? Where it's just, you leave there. On the one hand, you're totally inspired. On the other hand, you're totally dejected because you're just like, I will never be able to pull off to the level that guy did.
But it's okay because it's not about a finish line. I think it's also about the journey, and that's just life. It's about the journey. I will never be the drummer that I really fully want to be, but I'm enjoying
Well,
the
you know
journey,
what?
and that's the best part of it.
That's so true. And I had this a little more than a year ago. A dear friend of mine, who you may know, Sherry Cole. I don't know if I've probably introduced you to Sherry before. Anyway,
Yeah.
she has seen me perform many, many times in my life. And, back when I was young and so on. So she saw me, do, really difficult rock stuff and all of that sort of thing. Anyway, so a year ago, I was at a friend's birthday party and I completely butchered a song that should not have been, or a couple of songs that should not have been difficult. I just didn't have the muscle memory down. I was trying to, you're trying to remember back to how this went 20 years ago while you're singing it. So you can imagine that can go wrong. Anyway, but so I butchered this thing at a friend's birthday party. I feel like a total jackass. So the next day she calls to thank me for inviting her to this party. And I'm like, oh, Sherry, it was just horrible. I was a little bit flat on this. And I was sharp on that. I hadn't sung this thing in forever. And she's like, no, she's not a musician, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, Dave, it's not about perfection. It was about how you made people feel
Bingo.
when that was happening.
Bingo.
And I thought about that. And she's not even a musician. She's just a dear friend of mine. And I thought about that, and I'm like, I need to remember that more often because it can be debilitating when I'm thinking about perfectly delivering my very best voice, which you do want to do, and you want to hold yourself to that standard. But the more important thing was it mattered what happened, the way the people felt from the performance. That mattered way more. So I've got to remind myself of that, hey, I would rather, and this is very true, I will take an ounce of feeling over an ocean of perfection anytime.
So just remember, boys and girls, it's not about getting to the finish line. It's about enjoying the trip.
Yes.
Dave, thank you. Oh
Totally.
my God. Thank you for being my guest today. Holy crap. You will do this again. Please.
Of course.
Oh,
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate everything. So
I love it when you come on the show because I get inspired and I see how many people that you've inspired. So and I guess
we're pretty lucky.
We are very
lucky
blessed.
With some great folks, yeah.
And I hope that for those of you that are watching, you're inspired. If you're a vocalist and you're thinking about diving in, please dive in. Go catch an open mic somewhere. If you're scared because you don't think you're quite there, call up Dave. And again,
right.
Just say, take a voice lesson, get a critique.
Absolutely. If they're serious about building their voice, have them give me a call. So.
And again, thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time watching the show, thank you so much. Please go and like us. Don't call your therapist first. Go and like our page and invite your friends to like us before you call your therapist, because then he'll want you to undo all that. If you're a local band and you want to promote, send it to me. Send us a direct message to Concert Connection. Instant message us and send a link for your show so we can put it into the concert calendar. We're doing the show every week now. We're giving you 5-7 minutes of the top shows, but there's all of the shows listed in the event page on Concert Connection. Again, thank you for supporting us. We really do appreciate appreciate y'all. If you guys want to follow us though on other mediums, you can catch us on iHeart Radio. We're on Spotify. Obviously, we're on Facebook, but we're also on YouTube. We do have an Instagram and Twitter account. We also have a Roku channel and an Amazon Fire channel. So there's multiple places you guys can find us, or you could go to inthepitwithrick.com, download our app. It's a free app and you can watch the shows on it, but it also has a concert calendar. We're trying to integrate everything together where if you're out and about and you're like, let's go see a show, pull up In the Pit with Rick, go to the calendar and like, oh, look who's playing. And then you guys can get off the couch. That way you save ding-dongs and ho-hos for me. I don't have to bitch and complain about it anymore. And we all get to go out and support live local music. So there you guys go. Please tune in again next week. I'm not going to tell you who my guest is because I'm not going to. It's just how it is. Dave, thank you for being my guest today.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
I'm looking forward to seeing you out in the scene where we can get in trouble and not get caught.
All those charges will eventually be dropped. Don't worry.
Wait, what country do they not extradite from again?
We'll discuss that offline. But
this has been Dave. I am Rick. You guys are watching Concert Connection. And guess what? We'll see you in the pit.